Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Coach. This is your internationally renowned podcast presented by me, J. Cleveland Payne, one of the peak performance advisors from Fast Forward Business Properties. In the span of about 10 minutes, I'll present to you a show filled with a few ideas that I believe will help you improve your business and personal lives. I'm also going to let you help me keep me on track by giving some details on some of the features and programs we have in production. In today's show, we're going to ask you to consider trying to manage your life within the parameters of time, as opposed to the traditional attempts to manage time within the parameters of your life. While the notion that time can be managed is a complete fallacy, the concept around what truly can be managed is perfectly sound. We'll quickly explain why time management is impossible, why life management has been improbable for you up to this point, and provide some tips for you to use to make it not only possible, but the new norm in your life. So let's start the clock and get to work. Scientists have long established that the Earth is round and it revolves around a star we call the sun. It's the fact that the Earth is round and revolves around the sun and actually revolves around its own axis that we get the concept of a day, which is filled with daytime when your particular side of the Earth is facing towards the sun, and nighttime when your particular side of the Earth is facing away from the sun. Scientists have also long determined that a day consists of about 24 hours, which are units we use to measure time. They are standard and universal for all the industrial nations on this planet we call Earth and all the people who inhabit these nations. Anyone you may care to correspond with on this planet is given the same universal 24 hours every single day to accomplish whatever they can. What does not or cannot get done in one 24-hour period must either be done sometime in the next 24-hour period or the next 24-hour period or some further 24-hour period, or just does not get done. So if your alarm doesn't go off and you miss a once-in-a-lifetime event because of it, chances are you're out of luck. You can think of time as a resource, but it has a very unique property and it can't actually be contained or stored. You may be able to, in theory, earn time in a sense that you're allowed a certain amount of time to enjoy an activity or complete a task. You may also be able to gain time along those same lines if you find yourself working faster than normal and expecting to finish a project ahead of your allotted schedule. But the concept of banking time is abstract, as you can't actually contain time itself. Time goes on whether you want it to or not, and whether we are here to live it or not. You can stock up on things like food, water, building supplies, gym socks, and Pokemon cards. You can even capture air, or the gases that compose air, if you like. But people have wanted to put time in a bottle since well before Jim Croce sang about it in 1973. No one has figured out how to do it yet, and I don't plan to wait around to see anyone actually figure it out. So time management as a term is useful, as in everyone knows what you're talking about when you refer to time management or lack thereof. But time management itself is not actually possible from a view of physics. If you're having issues with time, as in getting to places on time and getting things done on time, what you can pursue is better skills in the management of you and your life. Those who have learned to manage themselves and their activities in the same 24 hours you have been given daily have become true masters of the limited time we all have. These are people who have learned that fighting time makes as much sense as fighting the current of the ocean if you've just fallen off a ship. It's a fight you cannot win. The ocean will carry you further out to sea if it so pleases, and time will always run out on you in the end. So don't fight time. Learn to work with it. Learn to live within its own boundaries. Learn to play the games by the rules and what rules will actually bend. We stated earlier that what doesn't or can't get done in one 24-hour period must be done in some other 24-hour period, or it doesn't get done at all. You have to first come to terms with the limits of time and the limited time in which you have to be where you need to be or do what you need to do. Some things you will never seem to have enough time for, and you may find yourself eventually not allowing yourself to try if they get in the way of more important things. Some things that seem important you will learn are not very important at all, and they can be done later, if even at all. Some of your priorities will be placed on you by other people, and you will have to determine which of those priorities are actually important enough to put first in your queue of must-get-done activities. Some of these imposed priorities will only be important to the person trying to impose it on you, and will be a complete waste of your precious time and energy. Finding ways to purge your schedule of these items and maybe purging your life of the people who keep trying to put those activities on your schedule will be key to your life management therapy. Okay, we're already running a little long, and we've got a long list of tips this week that definitely is going to push us past our 8-minute and 24-second average time for lessons. So let's jump right into what I have to say about changing your failed time management attempts into a winning formula for new life management. Our first tip is to start with a list. Knowing everything that must get done is a great start to managing yourself and your time allotted to get everything done. A simple starting point is with a list of everything that must get done, along with a notation of when it needs to be done. You can find plenty of details on how to get started on that list in episode 39 of the 10-Minute Life Coach. It's entitled The Importance of Deadlines and Priorities. Tip number 2 is to evaluate what you really need to do. Okay, so now that you have some idea of what you need to focus on, you need to really focus on what you really need to focus on. Just because it's on your list to do doesn't mean it needs to be done immediately in the order that it came to mind when you wrote it down. Yes, we're still talking about prioritizing your items and knowing just what items on your list need to be done right away, which can be done eventually, and which items you really don't need to sweat at all. Tip number 3 adds on to tip number 2, where you have to evaluate what you need to do and no longer need to do when an emergency strikes. So here's a scenario I've come up with to explain this. You're standing in your front yard and you're watching your house burn down. Now follow me for a bit. At this point, there is no need to worry about how long you've been putting off getting those new fire extinguishers or how much work it was going to be tomorrow when you planned on hanging your new flat screen TV. Worrying about what once was important and could have helped you in your current emergency is just as useless now as the trivial items. Right now, your house is on fire and you need to call the fire department. Deal with your emergency and be prepared to rework your world and any list that you have as to what is still important. Tip number 4 has you preparing the necessities ahead of time. A common problem for people who can't make it to work on time is the amount of preparation it takes to just get out the door in the morning. You can elevate some of that stress by just prepping ahead of time. Gather all the materials and equipment you need to take out of the door with you in the morning and leave it at the door the night before. Cook a little extra food at dinner and immediately pack it as a lunch right after you're done with your meal. Use a tool like the Peak Performance Advisor's Daily Dozens worksheet to map out the important tasks you'll be expected to tackle throughout the day, only you do this the night before. Set yourself up for a successful day of time and life management by setting yourself up as much as possible the night before. Tip number 5 is to give yourself rewards for good behavior. Use positive reinforcement to celebrate your time and your life management success. The greater the success, the greater the reward. Make it to all your classes on time for a week and allow yourself a 99-cent download for a new song to add to your music playlist. String together a perfect quarter of status report submissions before your deadline, of course, and you've probably earned the right to pick up that new gadget upgrade that you wanted. Tip number 6 is to be concerned, but don't stress over the setbacks. You won't go from barely in time to first in line overnight. It's going to take time to make yourself get everywhere on time, and you'll find yourself looking at plenty of situations where you'll wonder if you've made any progress at all. Show some concern if you can't quite figure out how to successfully navigate a schedule, but don't beat yourself up over it. If you miss a meeting and they invite you back, make sure you do everything you can to arrive on time the next time, maybe even a little early. And tip number 7 is to think of this as a reverse addiction. What you will find is that you'll soon be addicted to the lifestyle of life management. That means once you get on a roll, trying to manage your life and your time without it just doesn't work. So to make your mind work with this new reality, you have to reverse the thought of what you're actually addicted to. You have to truly believe that the drug that will tear you down is being unorganized and trying to just go with the flow. Your new life with checklists and rundowns is akin to a drug addict replacing gum and candy with their narcotic of choice. You have to believe that the old way is a dead way, and your new structured life is the only way to live from now on. Remember, time waits for no man, especially you. If you're finding you have trouble with the management of your time, you've got to first realize that time isn't made to be managed. You've got to learn to manage yourself and your life to fit in the time we all have allotted, the same 24 hours in the day. That puts a wrap on the main theme for this week. If you like the advice given or the advisor given the advice, why don't you consider putting a more serious investment into your personal improvement journey for yourself or your business? If you're ready for some serious one-on-one work, we can help. We can set you up with one of our peak performance advisors for regular coaching sessions, and no long-term commitment is necessary. Just you send us an email, and we'll figure out what we need to do to get you signed up with us. Email address is ppadvisors, ADVISORS, @att.net. So I've given you this week's advice, and I've asked you to make the upgrade. This is the point where I let you, the listeners, hold my feet to the fire on upcoming projects. This is the point we call accountability on me, and it doesn't matter who you are, how long you've been along for the ride. If you're listening to this podcast, you have every right to comment on what's going on. So with a very long lesson this week, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to our podcast, and especially give thanks to all of you who have been with us for the full 40 episodes of mostly fun, but sometimes frustration, of the 10-Minute Life Coach program. As we gear up for the final stretch of 12 more episodes to wrap up a first full year, we want to remind you that the best support you can give us is to help spread the word. So for next week, just take a little time to tell a friend about us and where we can be found. Where can we be found? We can be found on Facebook, on Twitter, on iTunes, Blueberry, Podcast Pickle, Podfeed, and of course, the podcast's home base at 10minutelifecoach.com. As always, you are free to send me encouragement, ridicule, questions about my general sanity, anything you like via the comment section of the website, or email us directly at 10minutelifecoach@att.net. And that's a wrap for this week's program. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, and I thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Life Coaching Program. For more information on the show, visit its online home at 10minutelifecoach.com. Information on the Peak Performance Advisors and one-on-one coaching is very simple. If you're ready to get a little bit more intense into your journey in personal improvement, we're here for you. Give us an email at Peak Performance Advisors, which is PPadvisors, ADVISORS, @att.net. Next week on the 10-Minute Life Coach podcast, I'll present some more ideas and tips to help you get your business and personal life in order for absolutely no monetary charge. All I'm asking of you is about 10 minutes of your time. Until then, I say again, thank you.